What's good, guys? We're back at it again with another video. Chances are, if you're a rail fan on Norfolk Southern tracks, you've probably seen one of these locomotives before. Or if you're lucky, you might see this locomotive out on the tracks. Both leading locomotives in the clips shown were rebuilt. The first one was an AC44C6M, and the latter was an SD70ACC. Those two locomotives were a part of a rebuild program, which will be the topic of today's video. As in this video, we'll take a quick look at the DC to AC program for Norfolk Southern. To set the stage, we gotta see where these locomotives came from. Back in the day, there were two dominant locomotive manufacturers, those being the Electromotive Division and General Electric. Around this time, these two companies were fierce competitors, trying to produce the best locomotives for the market. Around the 90s, EMD would produce the SD70 series, with Norfolk Southern purchasing the SD70 and a handful of SD70Ms. Around this time, General Electric would also be producing their own locomotive series, those being the Dash 9s and AC4400s. Norfolk Southern opted to purchase the standard cab C40-9, but because the FRA insisted that they purchase the C40-9W because of the safetiness of the wide cab, NS tapped out and then purchased mostly C40-9Ws. Throughout the 1990s and mid-2000s, Norfolk Southern would go ahead and purchase over 1,214 Dash 9s. They had about 120 standard cabs, while the rest were wide cab Dash 9s. They would also purchase about 148 SD70s and SD70Ms. These locomotives could be seen piloting trains from standard manifests all the way to hotshot intermodals and so on. The last of these locomotives would be shipped in the mid-2000s as they adorned the then new horsehead paint job. They would work for NS for many years to come. Around the 2000s, Norfolk Southern began modernizing their fleet. They would cease purchasing the Dash 9s in favor of the new Evolution series. Aside from purchasing new locomotives, they would also rebuild some, such as the SD60E. Even after Norfolk Southern received newer locomotives, the Dash 9s still occupied the majority of the fleet. Some of the oldest Dash 9s were around 20 or 25 years old at the time. This begs the question, what are they going to do with their obsolete Dash 9s? They can't exactly replace them or sell them off because they occupy the majority of the fleet. In 2015, Norfolk Southern decided to get a little experimental, if you will. They took a handful of their standard cab Dash 9s and either brought them to the Juniata shops in Altoona, Pennsylvania, or the Roanoke shops in Roanoke, Virginia. They had some special plans for these Dash 9s that they had put in their shops, and that is what we'll talk about next. In 2015, Norfolk Southern released 6 new locomotives from their shops. These locomotives came from the standard cab Dash 9s. They were completely rebuilt, and all of them were given special paint. The paint on the locomotives was meant to commemorate the rebuild program that they just kickstarted, with all the locomotives having the DC to AC emblem right below the road number. The 6 rebuilds include 4000 and 4001, which were given this blue paint job to commemorate the kickstart of this program. There was 4002 and 4003, which were given a black, red, and silver paint to commemorate the Roanoke shops, which is where these two locomotives were rebuilt from. Then there was 4004 and 4005, which was given a black, blue, and silver paint to commemorate the Juniata shops where they were rebuilt from. A little bit after being rebuilt and repainted, these locomotives were thrown into service, where they can be seen leading many trains on the Norfolk Southern system. The 6 rebuilt locomotives proved themselves to be very successful, leading to other Dash 9s being rebuilt. The rebuilt locomotives had many advantages. Their newer electronics and mechanical upgrades extended their lifespan. Rebuilding these locomotives were also a lot cheaper compared to buying a new locomotive made from scratch. And the AC traction motors gave them better tractive effort. Norfolk Southern would partner up with General Electric to keep rebuilding these locomotives. Some AC-44s came directly from General Electric, and the other ones were rebuilt by Norfolk Southern. The rebuild program was such a success that the SD-70 had got roped into it. 2 standard cab SD-70s were towed to Progress Rail shops in Indiana and were completely rebuilt from the bottom up. Just like the AC-44C6Ms, they gained new wide cabs, newer electronics, and all new AC traction. Around late 2018, the 2 locomotives were released from the shops, being classified as SD-70 ACCs. They were numbered 1800 and 1801 and were given a paint job that was yellow, black, and silver. This paint was given to them to commemorate Caterpillar, the company that owned Progress Rail, which rebuilt these locomotives. Things were looking good for Norfolk Southern. Not only were they still rebuilding Dash 9s into AC-44s, but they also partnered up with Caterpillar to rebuild their SD-70s. Unfortunately, though, this wasn't really the case. Sort of. In 2018, around the same time as the SD-70 rebuilds, Norfolk Southern, in collaboration with CAF, whipped out an experimental locomotive from their shops in New York. This locomotive, classified as an AC-44C6CF, was rebuilt from a wide cab Dash 9. The main difference with this locomotive is it has CAF electronics and keeps most of its original parts. It was given a red, black, and silver paint job, which represented the CAF company. This locomotive would be tested. However, they would find multiple mechanical and technical issues. This led to the locomotive being thrown into storage and would never see a road train. A year later, Norfolk Southern would put the locomotive for sale, which would then be purchased by the Knoxville Locomotive Works. Even the SD-70 rebuilds got pretty unlucky. Apparently, they also had some technical issues regarding their electronics, but what really put the nail in the head was the introduction of precision scheduled railroading. Precision scheduled railroading is a business practice done by freight railroads which focuses on extreme cost cutting. NS would adopt PSR in 2017 and sell off many of their SD-70s and SD-70Ms, meaning that the ACCs were only capped to about 53 rebuilds. Other rebuild projects, such as the SD-60E and SD-70ACU, also suffered the same fate due to PSR. And if that wasn't enough, up until this point, Norfolk Southern had been storing multiple Dash 9s for the rebuild project. In fact, they stored so many Dash 9s that it led to a power shortage. This shortage meant that they had to get locomotives from third-party sources. Not only did Norfolk Southern lease Dash 8s from General Electric, but they would also lease SD-70 MAC locomotives from Wells Fargo. They would also straight up purchase locomotives, as they purchased a handful of AC-4400s from CEFX and a handful of Dash 9s from the Kansas City Southern that were former BNSF. Aside from leasing and purchasing locomotives, they also pretty much just did anything to stay afloat in the business. However, after those periods were done, they were able to climb out of the grave that they kind of dug themselves into. So, After the little debacle that Norfolk Southern had, they were able to get back up on their feet, with the newer rebuilds being delivered from Wabtec, and a handful of them coming straight from the Juniata shops. In 2023, Norfolk Southern would do something quite interesting. Norfolk Southern, in collaboration with Progress Rail, would whip out 2 brand new rebuilds from the shops. They would be rebuilt from the SD70M-2. Just like the other locomotives in this video, they would be gifted alternating current traction motors. As of late 2025, only 2 of them exist on the Norfolk Southern roster, those being 1250 and 1251. Norfolk Southern would also rebuild the AC 4400 CWs that they purchased from CEFX. They were supposed to be delivered in 2025, but Ferromex purchased all of them, as well as some Dash 9s from Norfolk Southern. Speaking of the Dash 9s, the Dash 9s that Norfolk Southern bought from the Kansas City Southern were also sold off. Aside from selling off the Dash 9s and AC 44s, Norfolk Southern would also purchase a handful of Dash 9s from General Electric that were former BNSF, and they would include those in their rebuild program as well. Some AC 44s even received some special paint. For example, in June 2024, NS would receive AC 44 C6M 4822 from Wabtec. It was painted up in a special red, white, and black paint job to commemorate the railroad workers for Norfolk Southern. In December of the same year, Norfolk Southern would unveil their newest heritage unit, at the time, NS 4851, which commemorates the Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia Railway. Since then, the AC 44s have been rapidly increasing, with some of the newer models having radiator shutters. In October of 2025, Norfolk Southern would unveil one more special unit, the NS 4947. What makes this unit special is that it is the 1000th locomotive to feature the DC to AC emblem, which was given to locomotives that were a part of the DC to AC program. Since 2015, the AC 44 C6Ms have gradually been taking over the NS system, and have since become the dominant mode of power for Norfolk Southern. To sum things up, the DC to AC program serves as a modernization program for Norfolk Southern, as it takes older locomotives and completely revamps them with AC traction and newer electronics. Even after some major setbacks, and some units receiving criticism, the rebuild program is still kicking it to this day, even after 10 years. Which just goes to show the success of this project, since more units are still being rebuilt. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. I would like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.